Detroit Lions news, and it's more really of the same. It's either them taking care of one of their own, or you know what, sayonara. With this one, it is Levi Onwuzurike, a 1-year deal, $5.5 million contract. And instantly, do you like the move? Obviously, where this thing started at the beginning of last season and where I thought the trajectory was going, this is a stark difference from what one Kevin Zeitler teased about Aleem McNeil and Levi Onwuzurike. Now what feels like ages ago, $20 million men. Lions get him back at 5.5, and it's another kind of Brad value move, in my opinion, with one of his guys that they trust within their system.
Yeah, and as you've seen throughout this entire process, when I think Brad Holmes did something questionable, I'll tell you, and when I think he did something really smart, I'll tell you. And I think the Levi Onwuzurike deal was a great move, especially for the fact that he has no term. He just has 1 year, and it's only $5.5 million. Levi Onwuzurike had a really good year last year, and he was one of those defensive linemen, which was ironic, or defensive players, period, which is ironic because of his injury history, that was healthy. He played 16 games. He played a career high in snaps at 635. And not only that, he's a guy on this defensive line who is very versatile. You can put him at like the 3 technique. You could put him at defensive end. You could even line him up over the center at the nose tackle if you wanted to, because he really is that kind of a versatile guy. And he produced. No matter who was there, when Aleem was out, he was there. And honestly, if you combine that, when you look at the defensive line signings, remember yesterday when we were talking about Roy Lopez, and I said, in a perfect world, I'd rather have Levi O back for a similar salary than Roy Lopez. But I also said, how about both?
Yeah.
And I'm glad they got both. Both of them for a $10 million combined for 1 year. I like Levi Onwuzurike as a spot starter when Aleem is out to start the season. I wasn't as comfortable with that with Roy Lopez. And certainly when healthy, the defensive line rotation of Aleem, Reeder, Levi O, and Roy Lopez, and then sprinkle in Mekhi Wingo whenever when he comes back, and hopefully he's effective. I don't necessarily hate it. Were there other moves that I would have liked the Lions to explore? Like there were a couple where I'm like, damn, I really would have liked that one. I saw Poona Ford got signed for 3 years, $27 million. I would have loved that one. Teair Tart got re-signed with the Chargers for 1 year, $5.5 million. I would have liked that. So it's not to me as perfect of a signing as, say, DJ Reed was when his contract was objectively the best of his peers, but I still like the Levi Onwuzurike one because he produced last year, and I think he produced in a way where even if you account in, man, you're a little concerned about him getting hurt again, 1 year, $5.5 million. That's nothing. That's chump change.
Yeah, I like it. It to me, when we look at this thing in the contrast and comparison of what this team actually is, I always believed this team was one that could get back to the Super Bowl as currently constructed, but hey, go give yourself a little extra mustard and get one of those top dogs and make your defensive line absolutely unstoppable. But as currently constructed, it's like, this is a defensive line that still did a little bit of work, but you need a little bit more pass rush, but your depth. And if he's one of those guys that's giving you availability and reliability, then this is a great deal, as you pointed out. KG, I got to ask you too, because obviously the implications, Mr. Shepard, he plays in your defense.
Listen, man, we wanted to bring Levi back because we felt like he was an integral part of the locker room. But nah, and Koolaid, with all due respect, like we all knew he wasn't getting $20 million. I mean, it was nice. Kevin Zeitler tried to big his man's up.
He tried to help, man.
Yeah, he tried to help his man's out, but we knew at the end of the day that wasn't going to happen. But I did think that maybe he would go to another team and he would get a better payday than he would get here. He returns to the Lions on a 1 year prove-it deal, essentially. And this is a form of him betting on himself, maybe being able to generate more money in the market next year if he goes to another team. So I'm not mad at this. And with this Levi move, you pretty much, I don't want to say solidify your defensive tackle room, but it looks pretty damn good now, or it looks better than what it looked before, because you have Aleem, DJ Reeder, Roy Lopez, now Levi back in the fold as your key reserve coming off the bench. and of course Mekhi Wingo, and we saw some things from him last year that leads us to believe he might be good. But I think your D tackle room is pretty set up. You of course can probably add maybe another talent. They might do that through the draft, but overall I'm liking how this is shaping up. And once again, I have to reiterate to the fan base, I understand that Brad Holmes only signs his own guys, or that seems to be the play. But that is the point. When you're a good NFL GM and a good NFL franchise, the guys that you draft, you want to eventually keep them for a second or possibly third contract. So I think this is all shaping up the way it's supposed to. Of course, we want to see more, but for, just yielding the team, I thought it was a good move.
Yeah, and honestly, if we're talking about like signing their own guys, which ones to re-sign, which ones to not. Obviously, there were a couple that I disagreed with. One I already talked about. One we might talk about a little bit later. But Levi was one that I liked. And I'm at the point now, as I get darker by the second, love to see that.
Instant tan.
Instant tan. I was like fluorescent for a second there. But anywho, to try to regain my train of thought, I think at this point, and we might get into this tomorrow. I actually think this would be a good topic. If they were to make one more move for an edge rusher, I would probably be like, you know what? As far as free agency on the defensive side of the ball, I would probably be okay with it. And there are a couple of more Moneyball style signings that they could make. Even your guys' guy Matthew Judon, if he's actually $4.2 million, that might be something to consider, especially given the fact that DeMarcus Lawrence is gone. R.I.P.
Yeah, now you want Matt Judon. Now you trying to spin the block on Matt Judon. Oh, okay, all right.
Hey, with new information. But when it comes to Levi Onwuzurike, I wanted to really paint a picture, Flannel Angelo, of how Levi Onwuzurike performed last year versus the value of his contract this year. And JB, if you've got that, put it on up. Levi Onwuzurike, 15th among defensive tackles and quarterback pressures last year with 45, 16th among defensive tackles in quarterback hurries at 29, and 40th amongst defensive tackles in contract AAV at $5.5 million, and the $5.5 million is moving forward. So what those numbers indicate to me is that Levi Onwuzurike, and we know it was more for his previous injury concerns, particularly the back injury that kept him out for an entire season. We know that he outperformed what he made, at least in terms of pressuring the quarterback. And also he had 13 quarterback hits, which is another really good number for a defensive tackle.
Didn't he lead the team in QB hits?
It was either him or Hutch, right?
Okay, yeah. Hutch.
Yeah. But I think out of anybody who actually played the full season, I think he probably did have more than Aleem, especially because Aleem got hurt. And Z was obviously a mid-season signing. But those are that to me shows that it's a very good value contract, and especially when you factor in the 13 quarterback hits, which I did not put up here, but 13 quarterback hits for a defensive tackle who played 635 snaps. That is a very, very good number. And he's also solid against the run as well. Hey, Brad Holmes, I think he did it with Levi Onwuzurike, and I think he did it with DJ Reed. Great value for the money that you paid him, and I think that this, along with Roy Lopez as like a tandem defensive tackle, like rotational pieces with Levi obviously being better, along with DJ Reed being your cornerback one, those are moves when I look at the full picture that I really like, because like DJ Reed and Carlton Davis have pretty much been the same guy both last year and throughout their careers. Carlton Davis got paid more. Levi Onwuzurike clearly outplayed the $5.5 million contract that he got, and hopefully he does it again.
Hopefully he does it again. And you know what? To me, it feels like Brad Holmes is securing the depth on this team, and it sets them up perfectly to be able to make a big swing in this draft. I know you're still one that is along the lines of why not both? Still, if there's a good money ball signing out there to add to this defensive line, like you stated earlier, as well as somebody impactful in this draft. And me, I still caution people, hey, trust in Brad, because I remember some of the conversation even when the news was that Carlton Davis might not be coming back. And we even discussed, hey, are we okay with what we have right now? Even though he might go out there and do some other things. And some of us were, but large parts, a lot of people are like, Brad, what are you doing? especially when you compare that and contrast that with he didn't go out there and get one of these big edges while all of them are flying off the board in free agency. But what I see when I look at this team is one that is so full of depth that you can go out there and take a chance on somebody either on the defensive line or the offensive line, and they won't have to have all the pressure on them.
Yeah.
That, to me, I don't think that we should discount that, especially given the fact that we've seen Brad Holmes do work, go straight up bananas in the draft. It's amazing to me how people and I get it. I get the criticism that they want to levy about his assessment in the draft of D linemen, but it's just like he's cooked up more than he has not in the draft. And when you look at those upper early rounds is where I am really intrigued about the type of player he can add. Because if he goes into this draft and he comes away with a high, one of those first, second round type D lineman pass rushers, I'm actually feeling kind of good about where this team is heading into the season. I would have liked, yes, a Myles Garrett or Trey Hendrickson. All of us would have, because we were talking about, now that's the dynamite option. That's us going into the Super Bowl, which I think we can get there as currently constructed, but then actually being able to put forth a pass rush like we saw the Eagles do against the Chiefs. And they had Patrick Mahomes under duress. You got to get there. And I'm hoping that, and I do believe, depending on what they do in this draft, you can get that player still in this draft.
You can. I would prefer another signing at the edge and maybe a draft pick at tackle or edge as well. That's what I would personally prefer, and I think there are good names out there. And given what their values are, at least when it comes to a couple of them, I would probably be a little perturbed if Brad Holmes didn't get one of them. But at the end of the day, I also gave him a lot of flowers today. He's done a fine job this free agency. Not perfect, not exactly what I would have wanted, but it's Brad Holmes. He's got a credit line. His magnum opus day is coming up, which is the draft. So we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, Levi Onwuzurike, I don't think anybody should really have a problem with that, particularly at the money. And when I gave you the numbers that I gave you earlier, the man probably earned in a vacuum at least a $10 million AAV contract. Got him for 5.5.
And I am intrigued, though, just for you, chat family. Is there somebody out there that you believe they should go after? And to this point, is there somebody that you believe Brad Holmes should have gone after? Because I am intrigued. When we look at the moves he's doing, is there something that he didn't do that he should have done? And, Flannel's presented some stuff as well. You've presented some things as well, KG. And just interested on what the chat family is thinking too.
Well, shout out to Eric Allen. Speaking of the chat family,
hey, there you go.
And the only thing you really have to worry about with a Levi Onwuzurike is, of course, the injury history. Can he stay consistent? Can he stay healthy? To me, if he's on the field and he's healthy, he's going to contribute, especially based off what we saw last year. But Eric Allen in the chat, do people understand that D tackles don't rack up the stat numbers like D ends and linebackers? Anyone complaining about a D tackle not having many sacks just doesn't understand the functionality of the position. And I totally agree with that, because I did see some people in the chat talking about, Levi's only got 3 sacks throughout his whole career, which, for the position that he plays, pass rushing defensive tackles are a rare breed in the NFL. Like, they don't just grow on trees. Most defensive tackles have to develop into a pass rushing threat once they get to the NFL level. But for what Levi is providing you in the run game, and like Sam said, the versatility, the numerous ways that you can use him in terms of just on the inside, on the outside, you can stun them if you want to. The Lions love that. They love versatile players that they can do a lot of things with. And for the money, once again, you're getting a slightly above average D tackle for a $5 million contract. That's hard to get in this league. So I do understand it, people. The numbers ain't gonna jump out at you, but we just got to understand, like, he's serving a certain role on this team, and based on last year, he can play that role perfectly well. So I'm not mad at him.
Hey, voice of reason. What up, though?
Nothing, man. This is another one of those Brad deals where he's not going to mortgage the farm on just one single player. And I like the 1 year prove it deals that he's been kind of just throwing out there during this kind of free agency offseason period as it is right now. But yes, I agree with everyone. There does need to be another added player here as well too. I'm not too sure if you're going to just go crazy and, as some people say in the chat, get a Von Miller, which would be nice, I'm not going to lie, but it all depends on what he's asking for. And
I don't think he's coming.
Yeah, as KJ said, I don't think he's coming either. That's just me, but Yeah, pause on that as well too. Big pause.
Jake's over here laughing.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about Charles Barkley, man. Them young boys.
I won't comment on that, but big pause is that as well too. But yes, there does need to be someone else added to this roster as well too. I'm not too sure if this whole Trey Hendricks thing is just done, is dead, it's out of the water, but Brad's still got something cooking up. I don't know what it is, but he's working on something, whether that's eyeing someone in the draft that he absolutely loves, or there's another free agent out there that he's just going to scoop up. But just be on the lookout for it, and don't give up on this team like some people have.
Right.
Definitely.
And JB, I thought you made a great point with the 1-year prove-it deals. People should actually be happy because the Lions are leaving themselves some flexibility going into next year as well. You're not locking yourself into any long-term deals with some of these guys that you're bringing back. So that leaves the door open for, okay, if this doesn't work, I can maneuver, I can get out of this, and we can supplement that with different players, or, you know, they can strategize on how to move forward. But the fact that you're not locking yourself into anything long-term, I think is also helpful, maybe going into next year where you might can add more talent.
Yeah, and this is one of those ones that I haven't seen too many people upset at it. I haven't seen too many people online in the comments and checking socials and such. Most people have just been like, oh, cool, Levi. Oh. and to me, it reads as well that Kelvin Shepherd, you know, shout out KG, this is more familiarity. You talk about the leaders in that locker room. You talk about the people who understand, you know, the terminology. And in this draft, it's possible they go and they snag a D lineman or two. I think having more of those people that you know can lead that room, especially when you lose a guy like a Jalen Reeves-Maybin, who was a captain on that team and one of the leaders. I think that this goes to at least help retain some of that culture in that room for a player who, like you pointed out very well, Flannel, was available and was reliable.
Available, reliable, and played really damn well. And that's why KG, because you mentioned people talking about it, never in this entire time that I've been talking about Levi Onwuzurike did I mention sacks, because it is irrelevant for a player that plays like he does. Yep. It was about the pressures, the hurries, the hits. If he can get those, if he can draw some attention away from guys like Aleem and Aiden Hutchinson and hopefully another edge rusher that Brad Holmes adds in a couple of days, that will be just enough for me. It should be for everybody.
I mean, you said you wanted Levi O. You know, you got that one. DeMarcus Lawrence didn't get that one. 50% right now, but hey, call it. Who's next?
Who's next? And I promise we'll get into this more tomorrow because there's another position we've got to tackle in just a second. I will probably say Azeez Ojulari.